Welcome and thanks for joining us. My name is Thomas Gant and I'm an organizer for the Center for Community Alternatives. We're here today to fight for communities, not cages. Say it with me again. Communities! Not cages! Communities! Not cages! Warmed up. Together we are building the power of people and families who have had their lives disrupted and their loved ones disappear behind walls due to New York's racist and unjust sentencing laws. But we are also here because we know that true safety comes from strong communities and senseless incarceration. When we say we're building power, we mean it. Support for these reforms is broad and is undeniable. Thousands of New Yorkers have taken to the Capitol and the streets since we launched this fight. In under 4 years, we have gained support of the majority of our state legislators. We also have the support of New York's Chief Judge and Chief Administrative Judge. Law enforcement, including the former Commissioner of Docks, the American Bar Association, and dozens of labor unions, businesses, and over 200 civil rights, legal, and community organizations. Huge accomplishment. And across New York, the people have spoken. Our candidates report that 74% of New Yorkers support the Earned Time Act. 68% support Second Look Act. New Yorkers are now saying yes to communities, not cages, and no more to outdated and inhumane laws that warehouse our loved ones without opportunity for change. New York sentencing laws, constructed during the 1970s Rockefeller drug law era and the 1990s fallout from the federal 1994 crime bill, have decimated our communities for generations. 3 out of 4 incarcerated New Yorkers are black or brown. And this violence against our communities hasn't stopped. On December 9th, Robert Brooks, a 43-year-old black father, was beaten to death by a swarm of prison officials. Robert Brooks' murder is not an isolated incident. It epitomizes a system that thrives on perpetual punishment. Each additional year, someone spends in New York's state prison system, it's like another year they are likely to face violence. It's another year that loved ones worry that they will never make it home alive. This is why, for safety, for justice, for our families, more importantly for our communities, we fight for the Second Look Act, the Earned Time Act, and the Marvin Mayfield Act. The Second Look Act so judges can finally review and reconsider excessive sentences. The Earned Time Act so our system is not about warehousing people as long as possible, but about transformation, accountability, and restoring people to their families and communities. The Marvin Mayfield Act so that prosecutors don't hold all the cards and judges can consider the individual factors in the case. Today, we're going to hear from legislators, advocates, and community leaders, and more importantly, we were here from formerly incarcerated people and families that are leading this fight. But first, I want to tell you a little bit why I'm here. I was 22 years old in 1999 when I was sentenced to 25 years to life. I grew up and became a man while incarcerated. In prison, I worked as a hospice care provider, I became a violence interruption course facilitator, and I earned my degree. I also became a peer mentor. That was hard work, so thank you. In 2023, I want to say this, at 47 years old when I finally came home, so many people have been locked up for decades and dream of that day of being able to come back to our community and give back. The violence we have experienced before and during incarceration has made us experts on what safety and justice actually is. It really requires for all our communities, and I want to waste no time in doing this, but what brings me here today, when you look at me, I want you to see thousands of people who are eager to come home from prison, return to their families, and use all the gifts they have gained in their transformation to fight for a better world for all of us. True safety means supporting transformation, second chances, not endless punishment. States across the country, including deep red states like Oklahoma, yeah, I said Oklahoma, are passing sentencing reform legislation. New York must act now. And right now, I want to take a little time and introduce and bring forward another one of our great members who's going to speak a little bit about these bills. Melanie Bishop.
I'm Melanie Bishop, and I'm a member of Center for Community because our sentencing laws are failing us. They're failing families like mine, and they're failing our communities. Safety is a shared collective goal. Whether we live inside or outside prison walls, we all want the same thing, for our families to come home safe. But our current system does not create safety. It creates harm. It creates trauma. It creates a cycle that destroys lives instead of healing them. I know this firsthand because my son Zach is incarcerated. I had no idea how unjust our justice system was until it consumed my family. Zach grew up in a rural western New York, the youngest of my two boys. His father, a disabled veteran, came home struggling with untreated PTSD and addiction. Our families lived in the aftermath of that every single day.
Yeah, I've been talking to for a long time.
Zach needed help early on. He struggled with anxiety, depression, and substance use. When I asked for anger management classes to help him cope, I was told they were only available to kids already in the system. So instead of getting help, we were told to wait until he was in trouble. And when that trouble came, when Zach, under the influence of alcohol and Xanax, made a terrible decision, our system did what it always does. It punished him and isolated him. At just 20 years old, Zach was given an impossible choice. Take a plea deal for 18 years or risk trial where he would face a mandatory minimum of 40 years. 40 years! That's not justice, that's coercion. This is why we need the Marvin Mayfield Act to end mandatory minimums. Into a plea deal because if they went to a trial, a judge would have no option but to sentence them to an unconscionable mandatory minimum sentence. Eventually, Zach took a plea for 9 and 11 years, served concurrently. When Zach entered the prison system, he knew he needed help. For the first time, he was sober, and he wanted to turn his life around. But when he asked for treatment for his addiction, he was told, "There's too much time left on your sentence." He kept requesting programs. Substance abuse, anger management, but access was denied again and again and again. Zach's story is not unique. Across New York, incarcerated individuals are denied access to the very programs that would help them succeed upon release. This system is broken, and it's families like mine that are left to pick up the pieces. That's why I'm here today to call for the passage of the Earned Time Act, the Second Look Act, and the Marvin Mayfield Act. The Earned Time Act incentivizes growth and change by allowing incarcerated people to earn time off their sentence for participating in programs like earning a GED, completing substance abuse treatment, or vocational training. It also ensures fairness and due process when awarding or revoking credits. This bill would change the culture of New York's prison system. Preparation for reentry must begin the moment someone enters prison, and the Earned Time Act makes that possible. New York's Department of Corrections and Community Supervision has shown they can't do this alone. We need to pass the Earned Time Act to incentivize docs to initiate programs from day one. This bill benefits not only those in prison, but also prison staff and the wider community. At a time when facilities are experiencing record levels of violence and assaults, now is the time for change. I want to take a minute because last spring, my son Zach was brutally beaten by 6 correctional officers. He was on suicide watch. He was naked and vulnerable, asking for mental health care. Instead, they laughed, they mocked him, and they beat him while he was defenseless. The prison tried to keep me from seeing Zach after. When I finally saw Zach 2 days later, my 6'3" son collapsed into my arms crying. His hand was swollen and likely broken. He had bruising on his groin and a concussion. A year later, he still doesn't have full feeling in his hand. When I watched the footage of Robert Brooks being tortured and murdered at Marcy, I saw the exact same patterns of injury. This isn't just one bad officer, one bad moment. It's systemic. We need pathways to bring our loved ones home from prison because every day they are inside, their lives are at risk. Here's the truth. The violence of New York's prison what's hidden behind walls and bars and razor wire. You cannot brutalize people inside prison and expect those same people to return to our communities whole. You cannot have officers brutalizing people at work and expect them to go home and shut it off. We're creating cycles of violence. The Communities Not Cages bills will bring real safety to New York. The Earned Time Act, the Second Look Act, and the Marvin Mayfield Act are not just about getting our loved ones home. They're about making sure that when they do, they come home safe and whole. Communities Not Cages is about taking that $3 billion a year that we pour into these violent cages and instead using them to create the resources, programs, and opportunities that create safety and prevent harm from happening in the first place. These bills must pass this year for my family and yours. Thank you.
Gentleman, a very good friend of mine, but more importantly, a person who made great transformation, Leon Davis.
Yeah. I'm Leon Davis, New York City Community Alternatives Hudson Link is a promise. I'm here to amplify the voices of the unheard. I've been home for almost 9 months after spending 25 years in prison. The last time I was free, I was a teenager. I was going to college. I was an extrovert who moved around a lot, from Harlem to Brooklyn to Rochester to Chicago. I knew how to relate to different people from all types of walks of life. I mean, and to be honest, I never had been in any real trouble. Besides traffic violations, I felt safe. I felt like the world was in front of me. Then everything changed. I got into a fight and I got the best of a person. I fled and tried to hide it. When I went to court, they offered me a plea deal of 20 years to life. I didn't take it. I ended up with a mandatory minimum sentence of 25 years to life. If we had the Marvin Mayfield Act, the judge would have been able to recognize that I was just a kid who did a stupid thing. He could have had considered not only the factors around me, but the person I was at the time. At just 18 years old, I was sentenced to life in prison. With my vision and my mind blinded by tears streaming down my face, all I heard was I was gonna die in there. I was a child who hadn't mentally matured yet, and I was put into a shark's den. The night I was sentenced, I drew a mural on the wall. A candy man with the Capri Green projects in back. I didn't realize why I did that, but in hindsight, I recognized that I was a child living in what felt like a nightmare, a horror movie. I didn't feel safe in prison, not as a young man trying to survive in a world of violence, and not as someone navigating a system designed to strip me of my humanity. I was most fearful of the guards. They played both sides and threatened us with violence, stroking fear and division. They were unpredictable. I didn't know when they would strike, when I would go to the box, or when I would be placed in the infirmary. I'm not sure what would have happened to me if I didn't run into mentors like Thomas and my guy Kassam Messiah, 95A, 6899. Messiah, a pro boxer from New Jersey, had already spent decades in prison. He saw something in me that I didn't recognize in myself. One day he pulled me to the side and said, I see a leader in you. And that he had wished someone would have pulled him to the side, his younger self, and told him, learn to communicate differently, build your vocabulary, and educate yourself. He taught me discipline through boxing, pulling me into the ring, showing me how to change my emotions and making my energy constructive. His mentorship wasn't easy. He hit extremely hard. He made me listen and grow and think. Messiah was relentless in pushing me to do better and staying out of trouble, reminding me that survival wasn't about getting through each day, but it was about transforming myself into something and someone who could be an asset in prison and on the outside as well. He and I were in several prisons together, and he cultivated my leadership. I became a leader within the prison community, mentoring others, facilitating programs, and even served on the inmate liaison committee. I advised the superintendent on constructive things that would benefit my prison community. Education and self-improvement gave me the tools to not only change myself, but to change my environment and change the path of others. Prison is a subsection of society that's geared towards violence. Yet it was a society I was in. It was a society I wanted to change. Too many people inside never get the chance to show how much they've grown, to show how much they've changed. While incarcerated, they try to hold on to hope that someone somewhere will see them, will hear them, will recognize their change, and believe in their transformation and use them. I think of all the men I left behind, my mentors, my peers, those who could be doing so much out here. And until they are free, a part of me will always be in there with them. The second look at would give others the opportunity that I eventually received, the chance to be seen, to be recognized for more than one's crime. Now that I'm home, I return to academia, preparing to begin my PhD in the fall. I thank y'all, but I don't want y'all to thank me and applaud me. Applaud the guys that I shoulders I stood on, the guys that are still incarcerated. I returned to academia and I began my PhD in the fall. I've also taken on the Carceral Sickness Project in collaboration with the University of Cambridge. We're looking at the historical recursivism of racism. We're studying 100-year-old records of Elmira, Sing Sing, and Nappanak Boys Reformatory and understanding how it shaped the prison today with the racist language, with the labeling. I am civically active now and engaged as a member of my society and my community. So as I think of this, I remember safety doesn't come from locking people up and throwing away the key. Safety comes from recognizing our shared humanity, from healing, from ensuring that people have the tools and be equipped with the assets to come to their community, not just to survive, but to build their community. Bills like the Marvin Mayfield Act, the Earned Time Act, the Second Look Act are part of the solution to create a safer world for all of us. They offer us a path to end mass incarceration and to create a just system rooted in fairness and accountability. When I was inside, I wanted to be part of a community. I was separated from my community. That wasn't healing. That was hurtful. I returned to my community. I'm asking for communities, not cages. Communities. Not cages. Communities. Not cages.
A real champion, a person who fights for us every single day, a champion of our cause, Senator Cooney.
Good morning. I'm Senator Jeremy Cooney, proud to be lead sponsor of the Earned Time Act, along with my colleague, Assemblywoman Anna Callis. We've been carrying this bill for 3 years. But something has changed, right, Assemblywoman? Something has changed in a big way. Because about a month ago, myself and Assemblymember Meeks, who I see right over here, we have the opportunity and the responsibility to attend the funeral of Robert Brooks. We represent that family in Rochester. And when we listened to the pastor at the pulpit, he called for swift justice. But it's not just swift justice for Robert Brooks, it's justice for every incarcerated person in New York State. And in the this tragedy, politicians on both sides of the aisle talked about systemic reform. And they got up there and said, we have to change the culture within the 4 prison walls. Well, I want those same politicians to put their money where their mouth is and sign up as a co-sponsor, and let's pass the Earned Time Act and get this done. It's no secret that the way we've approached sentencing and incarceration in New York is not working. With black and brown communities impacted at a disproportionate rate, New York's recidivism are one of the worst in the country. And I hear about this all the time from community members and people who are incarcerated sending messages to my office. One person who's incarcerated in his late 60s, working towards his GED, wrote to me and said this: I have become a better man and would like the chance to prove that I can be a productive member of our society. I just need the chance. This legislation would do exactly that. The Earned Time Act would give people who are incarcerated the chance to pursue educational and workforce development opportunities to earn good time, to shorten their sentences, and to rejoin their families and to become productive members of our society. But here's the shocking component. Thomas, I think you said this before. Other states in the nation are leading the way. And it's not California. No, it's more conservative states. It's Oklahoma, it's Alabama. How are they leading the way on sentencing reform, and New York is falling farther and farther behind? It is a shame. So if you want to change the culture, if you want to make sure that prisons are safe, not only for the people who are incarcerated, but also for the correctional facilities, also for the families who are coming to visit. If you want to change safety on the streets when they are let out, then we have to pass meaningful legislation as part of the communities, not cages. So we come here with work to be done. And we stand with you in this fight. And let's not let Robert Brooks' name just become another name that we talk about. Let's live in his spirit. Let's let his family know that we're going to get something done and change things here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Senator. Communities! Not cages! Not cages! Next, we're going to call up another champion, somebody who gets up and go to work every day, fight hard for us. Assembly Member Patrice Walker.
I don't know. Every year, I feel like coming up here and putting out my dukes because we already know what type of match this is going to be. We recognize that the freedoms that we each enjoy may have taken us 400 years, over 400 years to achieve. But it will take an eternity for us to protect. From the educational rights of our children, from the familial rights of our families and our communities, and from all of our sisters and brothers who are languishing behind bars with football numbers given out to them each and every year. The last time I was behind a podium here, I spoke of someone who had over 100 years in prison. He did not get an opportunity to make it home, to see his children grow up, to work in the same building, behind the same walls of the people who instituted the same laws that put him in that place to begin with. But today is a day of reckoning. Today is a day that we say enough is enough. We have backwards prosecutors who are coming up here each and every year to undo the amazing work that this body has done with your help. Criminal justice reform in 2019 was not a thing of the past. We must continue to keep marching forward. In the spirit of Dr. King, in the spirit of Sojourner Truth, true. In the spirit of Frederick Douglass, we know what we are up against in Washington, D.C. But we don't have to go from Pennsylvania Avenue in Brooklyn to Pennsylvania Avenue in Washington, D.C. in order to fight everyday racism and institutional perpetual punishment. We can come right here from Albany Avenue in Brooklyn to Albany, New York. So we have a strong message to send. Yes, we need to pass the Second Chance Act. It is not a get out of jail free card. Though I will say each and every day, send them to me. You think that because you are behind bars, that you know how to build strong men. Communities build strong men. Communities build strong women. Communities build strong families. Not cages. And I am sick and tired of the fact that we have to keep fighting for monies for our babies to go to school, to be educated, to be better than us, to do better than us. And so we say, to hell with all of that. We need money for education, not for mass incarceration. We need money for education, not for mass incarceration. Thank you. I am Assemblyman Latrice.
Thank you, Assemblymember. Thank you for that motivation. Next thing, we'll call another person who inspires us. Hailing all the way from the 19th Ward down in Rochester. True inspiration to us all. Assemblymember Demond Meeks.
First off, I told Katie, she said, you got time? I said, I got time. But do not, I repeat, do not put me up to speak after Sister Latrice Walker. And what she did. Man, Thomas don't want to listen. It's all good. I'm Assemblyman Demond Meeks, representing the 137th of Rochester, New York. I am the proud sponsor of the Marvin Mayfield Act. Marvin Mayfield. For those of you who had an opportunity to meet him, you know that he was a great man. And we appreciate his walk, his sacrifice, and his commitment to all of New York State. With that being said, one of the things that truly motivated me about the Marvin Mayfield Act was a young man that I met in Rochester, New York. He was driving his vehicle and he had 3 of his friends in the car with him. So he thought, his friends. So as he was driving, the police pulled up behind him. Next thing you know, he pulled over like he was supposed to. And a few of the friends jumped out the car, took off running. He stayed because he come from that background. If you're not doing nothing wrong, just stand there. He didn't know that there was a loaded 9mm up under his seat. Now this particular young man was a great young man, is a great young man, but he was a scholar athlete on his way to a Division I college. However, guess who was charged with the pistol? And based upon the mandatory minimums, he actually went to prison, opposed to a Division I college. That would have given him an opportunity to change the trajectory for his life, as well as generations to come. So we stand here and we fight and we advocate for this type of legislation because we know that, similar to our school systems, where we advocate for IEPs, individual education plans, we can't have a blanket system as it relates to laws. This young man was a great young man, a great role model to many in our community. So when I stand here and I fight for the Marvin Mayfield Act, these are the type of individuals that I'm fighting for and I'm advocating for. But for me, it's not just about these policies. Since I've been in office, before I was in office, I've been intentional. And to all the elected officials that can hear my voice, you should be intentional in taking time to go to our correctional facilities and having conversations with the brothers and sisters who are incarcerated. 85% of those individuals are coming home someday. So we have a responsibility to go into those facilities and advocate for them. We just recently introduced legislation that will call for the OSI, Office of Special Investigation, to make it into these facilities within a week's time, within 5 days after receiving a report of an assault. Reason being, after hearing about Robert Brooks, we went to Marcy Correctional Facility. We went to Mohawk Correctional Facility. We met individuals there. One of them had a cast on his arm. After being assaulted by correctional officers, he had to wait 4 weeks. 4 weeks before they would allow him to see a nurse. 4 weeks before he could see a nurse, and when he seen the nurse said, "Oh, we gotta get you cast up. Your arm is broken in several places." So we go in these facilities in order to advocate not only for those individuals who are incarcerated, but their families as well. Because that single mom who are raising their children on the outside is carrying on a burden and a different level of stress that we just can't understand from hearing how her man is being beat up. The sisters in these facilities, we went to Albion Correctional Facility. Sisters shared with us that it had been 3 years, over 3 years, that they had not seen an OBGYN. That made me want to curse, for real. But we advocate for that policy as well. Sisters Barbara Souffrant is carrying that legislation. We have to change these policies, and we have to be intentional in going in these spaces and doing the advocacy. But we also have to be intentional in doing the advocacy in our communities. You all have the power. We are mere servant leaders. We will become you all. So we ask that you continue to advocate, and you continue to push us, and continue to hold us accountable in these spaces. And if we're not doing what you feel we should be doing, put us under pressure. Show up on our steps. Show up at our houses if necessary. But put us under pressure and say we need to do what we're called to do. And that brings me back to a scripture, Matthew 25:40. And the king will reply, "Truly I tell you, whatever you've done unto the least of these brothers and sisters, you have done unto me." So it's not only a human right, but it's a God-given right, a God-given responsibility that we advocate for the least of our brothers and sisters. Thank you all, God bless you.
Thank you, Senate Member. Next, we're going to call somebody who has great passion, fights hard for us, behind the scenes, in front of cameras, everything. We want her to come on up, Assembly Member Anna Keller.
I'm okay following these two beautiful people that were my colleagues that went through, because we all need to hear people preach the truth. So whether I'm saying it or whether every single one of you all are saying it when you go home, we're all speaking the truth. We're all one mind. We're all one heart. We're all one soul in achieving this outcome of demanding that the system see the humanity of every single person. That's what this is about. When you look at taking away the mandatory minimums. What are mandatory minimums? They were arbitrary. There is no data. There's no data that says if you've committed this crime, you must be in jail for this long, and somehow you'll miraculously be transformed and then somehow safe to go back into society. But we know that being in a cage actually creates negative mental health, negative physical health. So it makes the situation harder for an individual because it takes away their humanity. Taking away the minimum sentencing says that the judge is allowed to look at the human in front of them, the person in front of them, the situation in front of them, and set their judgment based on humans. And we've taken that away not only from the individual, but from the entire system for arbitrary minimum sentences that were based on a perception and an interest and a goal of locking people up and throwing away the key. End of story. It is time to end that and bring back our recognition of humanity. When you look at the Second Look Act, what are we saying? When someone goes into the carceral system, time doesn't freeze. They don't stop their humanity. The person grows. The person learns. If we believe that the system is a system of corrections, and not a system of punishment, then we have to look at the human at every step, every day of their life. And if they have corrected, transformed, rehabilitated, we must see that humanity. That is the second look. That is the second look. And then there's the Earned Time Act that I have the honor to carry with you all. Because I don't carry this by myself. I carry it with every person here who knows someone who's incarcerated because they are a mother, a father, a sister, a brother, a son, a daughter, themselves who are formerly incarcerated, and every one of your friends is still in a cage. This is our bill together. Our bill together. And what does it say? It says, when you are focused on your transformation, we must acknowledge it. We must give you credit for that. Because you have proven that your focus is to get back to your family. Why should we then be the judgment that stands between you and the love of your life and the community that you love? If you have proven yourself, and we know that this is not only something that will reduce violence in the carceral system between people incarcerated, but it will reduce violence against the people who work in the carceral system, because let's admit, the carceral system is toxic for everyone. For everyone. So this is what is good for everyone. So anybody here who knows anybody in law enforcement, you tell them this is their bill. This is not just our bill, this is their bill too, and they should stand with us to push and get this over the finish line. Because this will make society safer. We know it reduces crime. If everybody out there who opposes any kind of criminal justice says that that's because they oppose crime, then they support this piece of legislation. And if they don't, then they are a hypocrite. And they need to be called out. Because this bill reduces crime, it reduces recidivism, it brings families back together again. This bill is about transformation. This package is about getting people out of cages and back into the community to rebuild our community and to heal. That is what this is about. And that is why we are here. We are right now, I want to call it, because I feel like I'm in a world of insanity where no one seems to be calling the fact that our world is crumbling around us. We have insanity at the federal level. I want to call that out. I don't know what's happening, but it is falling apart. There is corruption. There is the end of democracy. And it is up to every state to prove that we're better than that. That we believe in democracy. That we believe in humanity. And we must get these done to prove that we stand together, or then we are part of that lie. So Governor Hochul, stand with us. Stand with us. Speaker, stand with us. Majority leaders, stand with us. All of us, we will do this together because you are part of us. We are community. Let's get this done and build back our community, not cages.
Thank you. I want to call up somebody else that's standing with us in this fight, Senator Rivera.
Good afternoon, brothers and sisters. I'm going to keep it simple. Get to be out here with us. So the changes that we are seeking are to make sure that we can change that. We can fundamentally change that in the state, and as my sister said, and I'll finish with this, we need our colleagues to stand with us. We need our leaders to stand with us. We need our governor to stand with us. I believe in redemption, we believe in redemption, and we need to get this done. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Next, we're going to call somebody else up who's standing with us as well, Senator Brisbane.
So, y'all know I gotta stop by asking, is Brooklyn in the house? Yeah, y'all, is Brooklyn in the house? So, for those who do not know me, I am State Senator Jabari Brisport,
And two of the neighborhoods I represent in Brooklyn are Bed-Stuy and Brownsville. And those two neighborhoods have sent a disproportionate number of young people from our communities into mass incarceration. For decades, the mass incarceration and the cages have not brought more jobs to those neighborhoods.
Nope.
The mass incarceration has not raised income in those neighborhoods. The cages have not provided affordable housing in those neighborhoods, and it has not increased life expectancy in those neighborhoods. We have invested in cages and incarceration for decades, and it has not made the communities safer. It has not made them more whole. It has not made them wealthier. That is why I'm with you today, because we've had enough of the cages. It is time to invest in communities.